Welcome to this episode of our program Arab Affairs, and today we'll be speaking about the Libyan file, since a Libyan important conference took place on Thursday for initiatives for stabilizing Libya, or for finding initiatives to maintain the stability or continue with the stability of Libya. The conference was held with this very particular aim and attended by several Arab and foreign countries with big concerns to initialize all the laws and procedures in order to start with the election process that is expected to be on December, or on the 24th of December, by the end of this year, or this year. We'll be speaking about the scene in Libya, we'll be speaking about this conference, we'll be speaking about the challenges that are really facing the Libyan state, or hopefully state in this upcoming stage. We'll be speaking about that and more, but before we delve into our discussion, let's have a quick look on the Arab news that took place during this week, and we'll come back.
Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli said on Saturday that President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has given clear directives to offer full support for Tunisian people, particularly during the current critical stage they are facing. The Premier's remarks came during a telephone call with Tunisian Prime Minister Najla Bouden. During the telephone call, Madbouli congratulated Bouden on taking over as the first Arab female in such post. A military outpost in southern Syria was hit by a coordinated attack on Wednesday, but an American official said that no American troops stationed there were injured or killed. The official said that the attack appeared to include at least one drone strike and possibly ground fire. It was not yet clear who carried out the attack. American and coalition troops are based at the Tanaf garrison. The base is located on a road serving as a vital link for Iranian-backed forces from Tehran. A Lebanese military code will ask Lebanese Forces Party leader Samir Gaga to give a statement about last week's deadly street violence in Beirut. An LF spokesperson said that Gaga has so far not been informed of any court request to give a statement. The bloodshed in which 7 Hezbollah affiliates were killed was one of the worst street violence in Beirut over a decade. The gunfire started as supporters of Hezbollah and the ally Amal were gathering for a demonstration called for by the parties against a lead investigator of the deadly Beirut port blast probe. Saudi Arabia expressed regret that the United Nations Security Council was not able to denounce attacks carried out by Houthi militias against Saudi Arabia and its people. Saudi permanent representatives in the United Nations stressed the kingdom's right to protect its security and stability according to the international law. Earlier, the United Nations Security Council called for de-escalation in Yemen in a unanimously adopted statement to counter the growing risk of large-scale famine in the country. The head of the National Media Authority, Hussein Zain, participated in the Arab Radio and Television Festival in its 21st session. This is organized by the Arab Broadcasting Union in the City of Culture in Tunisia. The festival is taking place within the framework of Egypt's cooperation with the Tunisian Radio and Television Authority over 4 days from the 19th to the 22nd of October. It also comes in light of continuous coordination among the union's member bodies to enhance joint cooperation in various media fields, along with an update on latest technologies with the media and communication fields.
Welcome back, and starting with our discussion to the Libyan file and this important conference that was held on Thursday for maintaining the stability of Libya. We have with us over the phone His Excellency former Foreign Minister Mohamed Orabi. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you so much. And this important conference that took place on Thursday, and or with the aim of initializing or finding initiatives for the stability of Libya. You're reading through the conference, the timing, and the outcome of it.
Yes, I think it was very important, the participation of Egypt on that level of the foreign minister. I think it will show that we are really, adheres to the principles of peace and stability and development in Libya. Libya is part of our national security, so that's why we have to pay more attention about the situation there, and we have also to exert every effort in order to achieve peace and stability in that important, country. So I think the Ambassador, Minister Sameh Shukri, I think he was absolutely right when he raised all our concerns, during his speech there. And one of the best, I would say, environment for this conference that it has also some international presence. So it's not just the neighbors countries, but many other countries and the UN also, and the Arab League. So I think in that forum, Egypt was demonstrating that we are concerned about the situation there, and we are also concerned about the next or the forthcoming, election in that country. And our position is so clear, and everybody knows it, and that's why to emphasize this position, I think it was important during this conference, and Egypt will not spare any kind of efforts in order to have a real stability in this important country.
Right. When we speak about Libya itself, and we speak about the challenges that is or that are really facing this country, we're speaking also about we've been seeing some of the unprepared for measures taken by the government, some of the contacts by the government, some of steps that were not very much appreciated by the Libyan parliament. And all these issues together with some other external factors are really threatening the Libyan situation. Now, from your point of view, how far is this next elections in Libya important? How will it work on stabilizing the situation in Libya?
I think you just addressed, many challenges which is facing Libya now. And that's why maybe we can consider the visit of Minister Sameh Shukri to Benghazi also as an important step to show that Egypt is, having the same distance between all the sides, and we are aiming to have a real stability and unity for this country. And also, I think many of the countries, even the Libyan, foreign minister, the lady foreign minister, I think she addressed an important issue which is facing now Libya, and it might hinder, the possibility of having a real election in December. I think the presence of the mercenaries and the non-state actors in Tripoli, I think this is one of the obstacles which is facing Libya, and that's why we should reach an agreement solution how to eliminate and mitigate, the presence of this kind of troops in Libya. But I think Libya is facing a real problem now, because the lady foreign minister, she was a little bit reluctant to say that we have a clear solution for the departure of these troops, and they were talking about a partial, withdrawal from Tripoli. And I think this might be a real problem which will face the election. And I think the interference of some regional countries in the issues of Libya, I think this will also pose a lot of problems, and it might be a real obstacle for having free election in December. So we still have to exert more efforts, the international community and the regional powers and the neighboring countries. And so it is not an easy task, and that's why there is a lot of doubts that we can achieve a peaceful environment and to pave the way for a free election in December. So from now till December, I think all of us, we should engage in a serious efforts in order to have a real, or let us say, a real environment to host this election in the right atmosphere.
Your Excellency, you pinpointed your finger on a very important issue, which is the foreign interference in the Libyan affairs. And we're speaking about different or conflicting interests from different powers and the existence of mercenaries that are supported by a certain country. Now we've seen two initiatives, or before we've seen two initiatives that were not really concluded, one from the French side and the other from the United States. How far do we need a foreign solution for Libya? What is the Arab role in this upcoming stage? How to secure a permanent solution for Libya? Because these elections are not the first ones, and every time the government does not hold, and there are always problems. So the question is, what is the upcoming or the role of the Arab countries at this upcoming stage? Is it a foreign solution that will solve the situation there with all those conflicting interests? And the third would be, how can we ensure that these elections would really stabilize the situation in Libya?
Well, I think two important questions you just raised now. The first one about the Arab role. I think in this stage we still need the international community also to be part of the solution. You cannot just depend on the Arab countries to create the right atmosphere in Libya for a fair election in the next in December. But in the meantime, I think what we need now is we need the Europeans, we need the United States, of course, and Russia, because the most important issue now is how to curb the regional interference in Libya, how to curb this, influx of the mercenaries and terrorists to Libya, especially to Tripoli. So you cannot just do it as an Arab country. You should also, gather and try to urge all the international powers to stop this kind of influx from certain countries, which is now trying to control the situation in Libya, and nobody actually accepts, the interference of this country in Libya. But so far, we didn't find a real solution to the presence of these troops in Tripoli. So we still need the international community and the international superpower even in order to have a sort of umbrella to any efforts which will start now in the context of the having a real stability in Libya. So the situation is not easy in Libya, and there's a lot of complex, I would say, interactions between certain powers regionally and internationally. So the issue should be, a collective efforts by the UN and some other countries also. And your second question is the election would be part of the peaceful solution which we are aiming for. We still have, if he wants to have a good results and implementation after the election, you should pave the ground for that. I think the ground is not ready enough to accept, as the results of the election. But the election itself as a process, I think it is important, and we should do our efforts to have it. And after that, maybe we will have a sort of new goals for the Libyan governments in order to implement the results. And this might be a good step to have a sort of unification between the two sides, the East and the West. And maybe this re-election will also produce a new institutions in Libya, and I think they are in need of these new institutions like a parliament and cabinet and maybe a president also. So all this process, it will be depend on the successful election. I hope we will have a successful one, a peaceful one. Otherwise, Libya will indulge in many years of instability in the future.
Your Excellency, when you mentioned here the foreign interference, or rather, you spoke about the importance of the international community to interfere in a positive way to push forward the stability of Libya, or to work together in order to really reach the stability of Libya. You spoke from the positive side, because there are really some countries who are really concerned with the Libyan chaotic situation because it hurts it hurts all their interests. But there are also very negative interference.
Yeah,
and there are even proxy wars that are being launched there.
Yes, I agree with you. I can see from the point of reality. Yes, this is the situation in Libya, and you just described the situation there in a very good way. And but for diplomacy, you should work on the facts on the ground. You cannot ignore the facts. The facts saying that yes, the proxy war, there is interference, there is a negative interference also. So that's why we should deal with all these aspects, and diplomacy cannot ignore it. And sometimes the ground is not ready enough to have a peaceful solution. So that's why you have to pave the ground first. And this is what we are trying to do as Egypt, as diplomacy, that we are dealing with both sides, East and West. In the meantime, we are against any kind of interference from certain countries in the region. And also we are always emphasizing on the idea that to have a real solution in Libya, all these foreign troops or foreign mercenaries, they should leave. This is actually, we are strictly adhered to this position since the beginning of the Berlin I conference. So diplomacy, it means that you have to deal with the reality. The reality is not so positive. Actually, in Libya, it has a lot of negative elements, but this is, we cannot ignore it. And in the meantime, we cannot just, staying on the side and looking to the situation there without having a sort of input in order to have some progress on the ground.
Very much indeed, and we're looking forward for the stability of Libya, because it is of our strategic depth or our security, our depth.
Yes, our national security.
In there,
yes.
Your Excellency, former Foreign Minister Mohamed Orabi, we thank you so much for being with us and for your input. Thank you so much. Now we move on with this report, and we'll come back for more discussion.
Be the first to know. The news live at the site of the event. Information on events as they are happening. If it's breaking news, it's Nile TV.
Libya's Prime Minister and several foreign powers endorsed the holding of a national election on December 24th as envisaged in a United Nations-backed peace plan aimed at resolving years of turmoil and division. Speaking at the Libya Stabilization Conference in Tripoli, Libyan Prime Minister Abdelhamid Dibeiba said it was possible to end the crisis that has engulfed the country since the uprising in 2011. Elections have been viewed as a key step in efforts to end a decade of violence by creating a new political leadership whose legitimacy is widely accepted. In his address before the Libya Stabilization Conference, Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry demanded monitoring the process of driving the foreign troops out of the Libyan territories within a determined timetable. Shoukry stressed Egypt's rejection for any foreign intervention in Libya's affairs and expressed readiness for supporting the Libyan people. Shoukry also called for committing with the ceasefire accord and setting a disarmament program for armed groups in Libya. The minister also urged the international community to boost holding Libyan presidential elections. Earlier on Thursday, Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry met with the head of the Libyan unity government, Abdelhamid Dibeiba. Shoukry also held another meeting with Libyan counterpart, Nagla El-Mangoush, on means of pushing forward efforts of reaching a political settlement for the Libyan crisis. El-Mangoush has earlier said that her country and the United Nations had been striving to turn the page on the violence that has wrecked the country since 2011. Meanwhile, the top diplomat also held talks with his counterparts from France, Tunisia, Algeria and Greece within the framework of the international coordination to reach a solution for the Libyan issue. The meetings were held on the sidelines of Shoukry's participation in a conference held by the Libyan unity government to shore up support on transitional issues as the country gears up for presidential elections in December.
Right, welcome back, and for more discussion on the Libyan conference, we have with us over the phone Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you so much. This conference really dealt with different aspects and different angles for the Libyan stability. It spoke about the political one, the security one, the economic one, the regional one. So,
human relations also. Don't forget human relations. We have millions of Egyptians helping Libya for its development. We have 2 million Egyptians in Libya. This is the most important factor also, or one of the most important. Of course, Libya is the closest neighbor and brother country. Of course, we share many interests. File, whether it is security, the political position, also the economic dimension is very good. Also, our national security, both of us, is threatened from some countries who think that they are going back to the imperialist time and to share with us our ways, many things. And the good thing that all the neighbors of Libya, whether it is Egypt, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, we are there to support their national decision in order to go to election in a peaceful way. And this is the only way to convince our brothers in Libya that the united Libya is much better for any party or any tribe than the actual situation. And we hope that we are on the right track. Some problems here or there, and we are there to help the Libyans in order to take the right decision for their sake. Also, in the area where we have problems of 20,000 terrorists are still in Libya, where to send them? This is a very delicate issue, security issue. Those who send them, they will not accept them to go back from where they are coming. It is a matter of security. The gas issue in the East Mediterranean is very important to all of us, especially that we are now in the position to make Egypt main center to export energy, whether it is gas or electricity. And now we are establishing the cable of electricity between Egypt and Greece and Cyprus. The Arab electric net is going to connect all the Arab countries from Baghdad in the east, going up to Casablanca in the west. Of course, with the center of Egypt, we are connecting our electric net with Libya. We are connecting our electric net with Saudi Arabia. Also, we shall go to the south with Sudan, with Congo, with Tanzania, hopefully with Ethiopia later on. So, as a matter of fact, this is a very dynamic activity and political foreign affairs. And thanks to the summit level, because the Egyptian diplomacy was depending on the level of ambassadors and ministers, now the leadership of Egypt and other Mediterranean countries are taking the lead in order to make successful measures and successful decisions in much shorter time. So all of this, we are optimistic, but we hope that we can continue seeing Libya going to the right direction until we see one united Libya.
Here, Your Excellency, you spoke about two very conflicting issues. One, which is the security issue, which is mercenaries, because we're speaking here about Libyan and non-Libyan mercenaries who do exist on the Libyan territories. And that put us a little bit in a confused situation. How to deal with those mercenaries, how to take off their weapons, and also how would they be integrated into the Libyan National Army? Would they return back to their own countries? What would be the case here? This is a security one, but that also depends on the economic issue which you spoke about. We're speaking about so many interests, the most important of which is the issue of the gas and petroleum, or the gas and oil in Libya. Now, if we speak about this security point, and then we'll go to the economic one, how do you view, how should Libya or the Libyan institutions deal with those mercenaries on the ground?
We shouldn't take this issue lightly at all. It is serious because we don't know where to send 20,000 of those foreigners in Libya, because their own countries wouldn't accept them, because many of them are coming from Syria. Syria is not in a good health. Turkey, let me be frank to you, Turkey is playing a negative role there. So we have to have a long period and deal with the matter. But the good thing that with the help of the European Union, because the Europeans are keen to combat illegal migration, they are against all the organized crime, whether it is money laundering, illegal immigration, terrorism, or all these crimes. So the good thing that we are supported by the European Union and the NATO also. So let us deal with it. It will take some time, but we have to be very serious about it, not to allow any foreigners to stand on the Libyan soil without the acceptance of it. But I don't think that Libya is obliged to absorb such foreigners in the territory of Libya. This is not acceptable unless we find a way to negotiate how to send them back to the country.
As for the economic file, because this also would shape up the whole future of Libya or really determine its upcoming stage.
I am optimistic concerning the economic part. Libya, for a change, is not a poor country. On the contrary, the problem in Libya is that it is a wealthy country, and everybody is greedy about the Libyan wealth, whether Libyan or foreigner. So if Libya stands on its feet and concentrate on its development, Libya will be in very good health. It will be addition to any relations. I personally, since decades, I dream about a sort of economic cooperation between Egypt, Libya, and Sudan. This will be very important. We have surplus of land in Sudan. We have surplus of money in Libya. We have surplus of experience in Egypt. And this is a very good combination to start a sort of umbrella under the larger umbrella of the Arab League, of course. Libya still has to negotiate with the European Union. It is the only Arab Mediterranean country which doesn't have official relations with the European Union. I personally, I was called to see the leader in Libya more than 15 years ago to explain to them why it is in our favor to cooperate within the Euro-Mediterranean cooperation also. We have a very good agreement, our association agreement, which makes our export increase by 4 times in the last 10 years. So we still have a lot to tell our Libyan friends and brothers, and they have to listen until they reach a Libyan decision.
Yes.
That their unity, their full control on their wealth is the only solution.
Right. Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
And I guess that brings us to the end of this episode of our program, Arab Affairs. We all hope for the stability of our Libyan brothers. Until next Saturday with another important Arab file, it's goodbye.